With week one of the NBA season in the books, I think it all went as expected. The Utah Jazz are 3-0, the Trailblazers are 3-0, and the Philadelphia 76ers are 0-3, just as we all predicted. The 82-0 dream is still alive for several teams, but we're going to be doing a power rankings and recap of every single game that occurred. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. So we're going to be going through and grading and recapping every single game that occurred. Now, I'm not going to go super in-depth and give you a 15-minute spiel on each individual play, how this could have worked or that could have worked. Just a brief synopsis of each game, what occurred, some injuries that might have happened that'll affect the team in the long term, simple overview, and then at the end, we'll unveil our full power rankings for the Eastern and Western conferences, respectively. If you want a 50-minute deep dive on each individual team, every single team in the NBA usually has some sort of NBA channel that you can go and look at, and they'll break down the plays, why this worked, why that didn't. Definitely check those out. But here we are, starting with the first game of the NBA season, and it was the Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Boston Celtics. And immediately coming out of this game, I thought, something's wrong with Joel Embiid. The Celtics go on to win 126-117, but there's something wrong with Embiid. His effort was low. He played in this really lazy, deep drop defense and the pick and roll. Maybe that's what Doc Rivers told him to do. Maybe he doesn't give a shit because it's the first game of the season, but he's offensively out of whack. He's not giving you any effort or energy on the defensive end. Normally, he's a lockdown defender. His defensive player of the year candidacy is a real thing, and that's kind of what puts him in that above Nikola Jokic tier because he can actually play defense, and he came out with intensity, and I thought he was going to be pissed. He said 2 years in a row, Nikola Jokic wins the MVP over me. This is the year that I'm going to step up. I'm going to prove all the haters wrong, and he's just been half-assing it instead. Other thing, Doc Rivers needs to go, period. It's been too long at this point. We've seen what he's done. I always put him in that between 10th and 20th rated coach in the NBA. You can win, certainly, in spite of him, but he's not going to motivate the team and push the team to be better overall. The offensive creativity is lacking. The motivation isn't there. There comes a time for every single coach where their voice rings hollow and they need a new destination. As for the Celtics, they picked up right where they left off. Jason Tatum was great. Jaylen Brown was great. Malcolm Brogdon, exactly what the doctor ordered. Joe Mazzulla looks like the real deal. Nothing but impressiveness from the Boston Celtics. The next game was the Lakers versus the Warriors. And not much to say for the Lakers. Exact same issue as last year. Their big three can't shoot. LeBron is an awful three-point shooter. Anthony Davis is an awful three-point shooter. Russell Westbrook is an awful three-point shooter. LeBron James and Russell Westbrook don't play defense, and the rest of their team sucks. Kendrick Nunn looked all right, but you look at them, Patrick Beverly, not a great three-point shooter. Lonnie Walker, extremely streaky, and most of the time, bad streaky at three-point shooting. Matt Ryan is like the only guy on their team who can shoot threes, and he's just one of those crazy guys who jacks up threes. Wenyen Gabriel can't shoot. I don't even know who this is. Cole Swider, okay. Juan Toscano Anderson, I love everything that he prides for the energy and defensive end, but he can't shoot. Austin Reeves is not a great three-point shooter. Scottie Pippen, Max Christie is a rookie. I mean, they just have no shooting. As for the Warriors, exact same as last year. Steph Curry is the key. The team is deep, talented, young, and well coached. On to the Wednesday games where there was, I think, 12 or 13, a ridiculous number of NBA games. Starting off with the Magic and Pistons. For the Magic, Paulo Banchero looks legit. He's a great number one overall pick debut. He had some crazy LeBron stat line where never before as a rookie scored 25 points and gotten 9 rebounds or whatever. Paulo was great. Good to see that. Magic just fell a bit short to the Pistons. They were unable to execute down the stretch. For the Pistons, Jaden Ivey just as well looks legit. Cade was okay. And who knew Isaiah Stewart had a three-pointer in him to clutch the game out? That's honestly a career saver for Isaiah Stewart if he can knock that down consistently. Other than that, though, Battle of the Bottoms, not going to talk much about them. Wizards and Pacers. The Wizards tried to throw this game, but their depth really persevered at the end. Tough break for Denny Avdija. I think he's going to be gone for a while with injury. And they got 10 plus points from Kyle Kuzma, from Kristaps Porzingis, from Bradley Beal, from Will Barton, from Daniel Gafford. They're just a very deep, very balanced team. As for the Pacers, they're still rebuilding. At the end of the day, Sticks and Halliburton is going to be a good combo. Ben Mathurin looks legit. Otherwise, just another loss for a rebuilding team. Talking about rebuilding teams, the Houston Rockets, but they played the Atlanta Hawks who are on the other side. So the Rockets are still rebuilding. Jabari Smith looked really good as well. All the, I want to say, top 5 rookies look to be pretty good coming out. Of course, Paulo Banchero is head and shoulders above the rest as far as NBA ready. So is Keegan Murray, but the rest, I think, obviously have higher potential. Coming off of this game, the only notes that I have for the Rockets is that they need a better center not named Bruno Fernando. And I think Bruno went out with injury a couple games later down the week. So, They just need size on this team. For the Atlanta Hawks, Dejounte Murray, he's the real deal. Had 5 steals. I think he had 3 in the fourth quarter, and the Hawks didn't have to play Trae Young ball, which is good to see, I'm sure, for all Atlanta Hawk fans. DeAndre Hunter had a huge game after his contract extension, and Onyeka Okongwu was really good for them off the bench. Going on to the next game, the Pelicans versus the Nets, and this was a really fun one. Zion looked legit, the number 1 overall pick that we all wanted him to be. 25 points, 9 rebounds in his basically debut after not playing, a season and a half. The whole team played great. I wish I could have seen more Dyson Daniels, but that is okay. As for the Nets, same as the Lakers, same issues as before. KD was KD, Kyrie was masterful, but his shot was off, and Ben Simmons was frankly atrocious. The rest of the team wasn't great. Patty Mills was a bucket. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to have a breakout season if he's allowed to by Steve Nash, but the rest of the roster isn't that talented. They're going to have the same issues as they have the last few seasons. Going on to the Bulls versus the Heat, this game was just a chaotic mess of errors and turnovers and bad offense, but the Bulls prevailed just barely in the end. DeMar was DeMar. Vooch actually hit some clutch buckets. I know. As for the Heat, I don't know what to say about the Heat. Jimmy and Bam still can't shoot. The team is well coached and they play with energy, but they just aren't that talented, and it shows down the stretch during some games. You can't really rely on a washed Kyle Lowry. Tyler Hero goes in and out of games at will. Caleb Martin, he's your other starting player. Why did they let PJ Tucker walk? And then when you got Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Gabe Vincent, you all hope can make 3-pointers. It's just, I don't know about the top end potential of this team. Looking at the Cavaliers versus the Raptors, the Cavs, it was great to see Spider Mitchell have a good debut. Tough to lose Darius Garland for the final stretch and for a couple games, but I think he's going to be coming back soon. The defense could not hold up to the strength and size of Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam, which was a little interesting. They came up just a bit short, but of course, the first game having all these new pieces around. For the Raptors, huge win. They just fed off the home crowd and the energy, and they probably should have lost this game, all things being equal. Balanced effort from everybody, 6 players in double figures, and this is the key to the Raptors' success this season is team basketball. Knicks and Grizzlies, a really fun game to watch. Being honest, the Knicks probably should have lost this game in regulation twice. First from a ridiculous bailout shot from Cam Reddish, which, first of all, good to see him coming out of Tom Thibodeau's doghouse and actually getting minutes. He's got high upside, and he just hasn't been able to break the rotation for any roster that he's been on. Secondly, the last offensive foul on Ja Morant. That's kind of debatable as well. Nice game from everybody. Jalen Brunson is exactly what I feared he would be for the Knicks, which is kind of a good player, but not really a superstar that should be worth hundreds of millions of dollars signing to a contract. RJ Barrett pulled a complete Houdini. Where did you go, son? What did he put up? 11 points on 3 of 18 shooting. Oof. As for the Memphis Grizzlies, the Grizz do what the Grizz do. I love their team. I'm worried about Desmond Bane getting hurt again. I'm worried about their rotations. I think Dylan Brooks is still out. Zaire Williams is out. I'm worried about the injuries that are starting to pile up for the Memphis Grizzlies squad. OKC Thunder versus the Timberwolves. This game was pretty simple. It breaks down what's different between the winning teams and the losing teams. The good teams from the bad teams. The Thunder just could not execute down the stretch. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander missed like his last 4 shots. Pokusevski should not be holding the ball at all. He should not be your primary option when you need a bucket. And the lack of size on this team, especially missing Chet Holmgren, reared its ugly head this game. As for the Wolves, good win for the team. Ant was awful, but the rest of the team was solid. I'm going to get sick of Timberwolf announcers trying to justify mortgaging the future for Rudy Gobert nonstop, time after time, saying that won't show up on the stat sheet 74 times a game. Good riddance. But the good win for the Timberwolves, 115-108. Going to the Hornets versus the Spurs, kind of an interesting game here. Great win for the LaMelo-less Hornets. They came out on fire and didn't let up on the hapless Spurs. They just played with energy and intensity. I'm not impressed that they won by 20 plus over the worst team in the league, but overall a good win for the Hornets. As for the Spurs, I don't know what happened. They just came out flat. Normally you wouldn't expect this from a Greg Popovich coached team, but they just had nothing to go. This roster has a long way to go before they can be competitive. Jeremy Sohan wasn't all that impressive. He's showing all the weaknesses that I expected him to. And the rest of the team is just not that good. Nuggets versus Jazz. Of course, we'll be talking about the Jazz in a little bit, but hype win in their home opener with Colin Sexton getting feisty on the MVP. Probably would be their biggest win of the year, was my prediction when this game occurred back on Wednesday. As for the Nuggets, tough loss for the Nuggets. They should really be beating teams like the Jazz, but man, their defense is bad. They're going to have to rebuild some of that chemistry, and that's going to take time with Jamal Murray not having played in a year and a half. Michael Porter Jr. sitting most of last year. I'm expecting the Nuggets to be much better down the stretch. Mavericks versus Suns. We all thought this game was going to end like Game 7. I know every single person went, oh, here we go again. But man, did the Suns storm back. As for the Mavericks, Christian Wood looked incredible in the second quarter, but the lack of chemistry kind of reared its ugly head down the stretch in the fourth. The team got stuck in Luka ball, or even worse, you take the shot. No, you take the shot. This kind of sputtering offense, they just need time to build that chemistry. As for the Suns, great win down the stretch. I'm predicting their downfall. I think they're going to take a step back. Cliff Paul got completely in the doghouse down the stretch, and they played campaign in the fourth quarter. The DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker pick and roll was absolutely lethal, and very impressive game overall from the Phoenix Suns. Glad they won this one. Final game of the day was the Portland Trail Blazers versus the Sacramento Kings. This was kind of a weird game to watch. The referees did not give Sacramento a break down the stretch. They were just letting them play physical. For the Blazers, Damian Lillard was really bad. Anthony Simons was okay. Grant was okay. Shaedon Sharpe was really impressive for a raw rookie. Josh Hart made some really dumb plays, but overall they prevailed on the road. The Kings, Fox's lack of shooting was the difference in this game, period. He missed an open mid pretty bad, took an awful charge call. Sabonis had a bad turnover, but this game was closer than that 7-point finish indicates. Terrence Davis was a monster. Kevin Huerter made some huge buckets for this team, but ultimately they came up just a little bit short. Moving on to the Thursday games where they only had 2 games. Again, really weird scheduling by the NBA. Bucks at the 76ers. And I don't know, just taking a step back, the Bucks always seem to win these close games. I don't understand how, but they're just a tough, gritty team, and they got a little bit of luck on their side. There's no other way to explain it.
But you had something they didn't. Luck.
Good win for the Bucks. Really ugly low-score game. You can see by the score, 90-88. Giannis put up 21. Brook Lopez, 4-12 from 3, 17 points. Drew Holiday gave him 6 points. But they gutted it out. Nice victory for the Bucks. 76ers, James Harden was incredible this game. Embiid disappeared again. And in my notes, something is wrong with Joel Embiid. I saw some report. I think they had plantar fasciitis in the offseason. Maybe that's been sticking around. Maybe he's just not motivated. I'm not sure, but Joel Embiid does not look right. Put up 15 points this game on 6 of 21 shooting. Tobias Harris disappeared. No surprise. The bench is absolutely useless for Philadelphia, and Doc Rivers couldn't get his offense rolling or his defense flying. Sigh. Moving on to the other game of the night, Clippers at the Lakers, and it's kind of hilarious that Kawhi Leonard is load managing in games that he actually plays now. He doesn't just load manage throughout the season not playing games, but if he does play a game, he load manages. I don't know, I thought it was a little ironic. I get it. He's more brittle than a glass panel juggler, but damn. The Clippers are a well-oiled machine with him off the court, and then the second he came on, their inconsistency showed. It was kind of like are you taking the shot? Do I take the shot? Obviously, they need him to be healthy to be successful in the postseason, but they just looked really bad with Kawhi Leonard on the court. But they still prevail over the Lakers because the Lakers are horrible. Now, I love the fight from them in this game. Normally, when they get down 15 points, they roll over and say, "Uncle, we're going to go on to the next game." I directly attribute their perseverance to Patrick Beverley, and I don't care how bad Russ was in this game. I loved his defense on Kawhi. Got 2 consecutive steals and a tip away in the final minutes. All in all, again, the roster construction for this team was bad. Look at these 3-point numbers. Anthony Davis was actually good, 2 of 4. LeBron James, 2 of 8 from 3. Russ, of course, 0 of 6, 0 of 11 for the game. Patrick Beverley, 1 of 6. Lonnie Walker, 2 of 9. And then their bench, Matt Ryan, he went 1 of 2. All right, that's the best on the team. Juan Toscano Anderson, 1 of 4. Damian Jones, 0 of 1. Austin Reeves, 0 of 1. Kendrick Nunn, 0 of 4. You can't win a basketball game when you go 9 of 49 from the 3-point line. It's a disgusting team, and I don't know what kind of blackmail Rob Pelinka has on Jeannie Buss, but those better be some tasty nudes, because holy crap, this guy got a contract extension after the 2nd year in a row of putting together a horrible roster. Moving on to the Friday games. Pelicans at the Hornets. The Pelicans look good here. They just continue to impress. Not much to say about them. The Hornets, honestly, the Hornets aren't in a bad place when I was looking at this game. LaMelo needs to come back, obviously, because Dennis Smith Jr. does not belong in the NBA, at least for this game. Gordon Hayward is playing pretty well. Terry Rozier is always good for 15 to 20 a night. They just really need to play their younger guys more. Kai Jones has not gotten any minutes at all, and he was a freak athlete. JT Thor is just a unique skill set of a player. James Bouknight is a bucket. Mark Williams, the athletic center that they wanted. None of them are getting minutes, and maybe this is coming from the top. Maybe this is coming from Michael Jeffrey Jordan, because he's always hated young players. But either you play these young guys, or you have Kelly Oubre and Mason Plumlee, or is it Miles Plumlee? I don't even know. Get the majority of your shots and get the majority of your minutes. Tough break for the injury to Terry Rozier. Hopefully he's going to come back healthy, but man, I'm so sick of the Hornets not playing their young guys meaningful minutes. Spurs versus Pacers. I think every Spurs fan lost a year of their life trying to blow this game away in the fourth quarter. Holy crap. Most of this game was emblematic of the Spurs basketball. Lots of passing, movement, offensive rotations leading to open shots. They just fell apart in the closing minutes, and the hack a Jakob Poeltl strategy. somebody needs to trade for Josh Richardson as well. He's been balling out since last season. Some contender like the Lakers could really use him on their team. As for the Pacers, tough game. They rallied in the fourth. Their shots were simply falling as they dropped 49 points in the fourth quarter, forced a lot of turnovers. At the end of the day, they're still rebuilding, and Buddy Hield needs to go, period. He's just soaking up shot attempts, poor ball handling, making dumb mistakes, taking opportunities away from the other players, and he's just not part of the future of this team. The rookies are all showing growing pains, and this is to be expected. Isaiah Jackson looked really good, and the Pacers had a tough time scoring the ball. It seemed like 90% of their offense is just run a single pick and roll from the three-point line, and then drive and kick, and then that man drives and kicks, and then that man drives and kicks until somebody lays the ball up. Chris Duarte also been a complete no-show, a little bit of a disappointing start to the season. As for the Bulls and the Wizards, another really close game. A lot of these games have been really interesting to start off the season. Obviously, the Bulls missed Zach LaVine in this game and Lonzo Ball as well. Tough loss to end the game. You'd like Billy Donovan to drop a better play than an ISO 30-foot three-point shot by DeMar DeRozan, but it happens. He made it a couple times last season. Patrick Williams, man, you need to start showing up. As for the Wizards, Denny needs some national attention for his defense. He's consistently guarding the other team's best player on the wing. I know he's not great. He's not a perfect defender, but he definitely needs to get recognized for the effort that he's been providing. Bradley Beal finally came up clutch for the Wizards. I'm sure they love to see it after all the hating and how much people did not want him to get re-signed in the offseason. Magic versus Hawks. The Magic rallied in the fourth, but their offense kind of sputtered. They did a lot of hero ball and had a couple of untimely turnovers, but it was a really close game. I do like the versatility and the uniquity of this roster, all right? So imagine, when healthy, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Mo Bamba, and then you have a bench rotation of something of Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton, Terrence Ross, Bol Bol, Wendell Carter Jr., Chumo Kiki, Gary Harris, also known as Gary Harris. I mean, at the bare minimum, this team is a fun team to watch day in and day out. As for the Hawks, great win for the Hawks. Must feel great as a Hawks fan to see the offense operate when Trae Young is on the bench and your team doesn't sputter. Great closing stretch as well by the Atlanta Hawks. All in all, just a good game from them. Raptors versus Nets. Tough loss for the Raptors. The Nets had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and you don't. Period. That's why you lost. That's why you're not going to be a championship squad. As for the Nets, Kyrie was masterful yet again. Royce O'Neal was huge. He got an offensive foul drawn on Pascal Siakam, hit the dagger three, and I understand why they gave up a first-round pick for Royce O'Neal. I disagree with the philosophy, but he was the reason why they won this game. Now, there was one concerning play that I saw between Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. They ran the pick and roll with him, and then the Raptors switched OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet. So OG was guarding Kyrie, and Fred VanVleet, all of 6'1", maybe, was guarding Ben Simmons, 6'10", 6'11". This effectively kept the Raptors' best defender, OG Anunoby, on Kyrie Irving. Ben Simmons has 10 inches. He casually walks into the dunker spot, and then the Raptors, seeing that they're not going to target this mismatch at all, switch to Precious Achiuwa, making Kyrie put up a ridiculous and one fadeaway jump shot at the end of the shot clock. It went in, but this is not good basketball. This is not efficient, smart basketball. This is hero ball at its finest. When you have a 10-inch advantage with Ben Simmons on Fred VanVleet, you got to take advantage of that, man. There's no off-ball movement for this offense. There's no pin-down screens. There's nothing that resembles good basketball for this team. This is the same problem that the Nets have had 3 years in a row. And look, Steve Nash is not always the problem, but he seems to be the problem right now. If we can get a good head coach on this Nets squad, I don't hate their roster construction. I think there's something here. The Nets, just another year of disappointing basketball. They do walk away with the win, though. Moving on to the next game, Celtics versus Heat. Good to see a Sam Hauser sighting by the Celtics. I've been following him out of Virginia since he was drafted, and they had a good, strong closeout fourth quarter by the Celtics, especially with Jaylen Brown on the bench. Really like to see that. All in all, great game by the Celtics. Heat felt like they had a lot of opportunities to take the game back, but they just could not make a basket or get a stop when they needed it most. Kyle Lowry continues to look washed and $30 million down the drain. Really tough loss for the Heat. Pistons at the Knicks. This game was never close. Dwayne Casey should probably be on the hot seat soon. If not this year, then next. I'm just not satisfied with the rotations he's putting out. He's in that Doc Rivers tier of a head coach in that 10 to 20th range where you can win in spite of him, but he won't command your team to victory. Their bench is absolutely awful. It provides them nothing to the team, and it's really the difference between winning and losing a lot of these games. For the New York Knicks, really balanced scoring effort from the team. Of course, the Knicks always look good at the beginning of the season when Tom Thibodeau has them playing 100% in October. Come see me in mid-February, see how the team is actually doing. A balanced scoring effort from them. 15 points for Randall, 17 for Brunson, 18 for Barrett, 16 for Top, and 13 for D Rose, 20 from IQ, Just a really good balanced all-around game from the New York Knicks. Moving on to the next one, Rockets versus Grizzlies, and this was an electrifying game. They were just throwing haymakers back and forth, and one of the surprise thrillers of the top versus bottom of the Western Conference. For the Grizz, John Morant, what else can we say? He's simply the most entertaining player in the history of the game. His blocks, his stop-start quickness, every single night, he provides a year's worth of highlights, and that's just one night of this dude. Tyus Jones was on fire this game. He's taking his game to another level, really impressive, and honestly, I'm surprised he's not starting for another team. The re-signing of him was huge for the Memphis Grizzlies. For the Rockets, Jabari looks good, and I saw him playing at the 5 a little bit down the stretch in this game. That was a real eye-opener. If Steven Silas is willing to embrace that modern concept, go a little bit Ty Lewis here, and just kind of have no centers on the court, I think Jabari Smith at the 5, or when Alperen Sengun goes out, is going to be a really tough matchup for other teams. Kevin Porter Jr. is a problem at point guard. Multiple times I saw Jalen Green or Alperen Sengun have a mismatch, and Kevin Porter Jr. didn't even notice them, didn't even look in their direction. And then Alperen Sengun's missed free throws at the end of the game really hurt, but really fun game to watch at the very least. Utah Jazz versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. First off, heck of a game. Great comebacks by both teams, overtime, clutch shots, etc. The reason why the Timberwolves lost this game and why the entire league spent a whole offseason scratching their heads wondering why the Rudy Gobert trade occurred is because Rudy Gobert cannot shoot free throws, jumpers, jump hooks, whatever. The difference between winning and losing is Rudy Gobert's lack of offense. For the Jazz, I love the heart they played, and who would have thought that the tank for Vic Jazz is 2-0 at this point, 3-0 later on in the week. As for the Wolves, tough loss. Again, Karl Anthony Towns makes some dumb shots down the stretch with 20 seconds left in his shot clock. Anthony Davis pulled a Houdini, and Chris Finch needs to figure out how to close games because this is a recurring issue for the Timberwolves. Nuggets versus the Warriors. Great win for the Nuggets. KCP is going to be huge for this team. If it's the fourth quarter, his shot percentage doubles. I can't explain it, but if you need a clutch bucket, KCP is your guy. Bruce Brown had a career game. Joker was great. For the Warriors, it's a tough loss. They were making plenty of clutch threes, but they just could not put together a couple stops at the end to make this a closer game. And the final game of the night, Suns at the Blazers. Another great close game early in this season. For the Suns, I was a little frustrated watching this game. I wanted more of that DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker pick and roll. It was lethal against the Mavs, and 2 of their final 3 shots were just Devin Booker ISOs, and they missed all 3 of them. DeAndre Ayton, man, so I was watching the game. He missed the free throws to tie the game, to force it to go into overtime, and that happens. But then he smiled after Jacques Landale just missed the tip, and he was like, oh man, we almost had him, after losing purely on your missed free throws. Is what irks me about you. It's what irks other people about you. Same thing as when they lost the NBA Finals. He went, oh man, it's okay, we'll be back. Will you? I never see the great smile after a loss. And I know we always go, oh, Kobe Bryant wouldn't have smiled. Oh, Michael Jordan would have never smiled. But you never see the great players lose a game and they go, ah, shucks, gee whiz. Well, we'll get him next time. No, you got to be pissed. You got to say, what the F did I do? Why didn't I make that free throw? Sure, it's probably the healthier thing to do if you step back and you go, it's just a game of basketball. It's not really that important. We're not fighting and dying in Russia and Ukraine. This is just a sport. I get that. And look, if your therapist says, oh, it's just a game, yeah, they're right. But your therapist isn't Kobe Bryant. Your therapist isn't in the Naismith Hall of Fame. And I don't want to see you smile after losing a game because it's your fault. Anyway, kind of a weird season for the Suns. They got blown out by the Mavs only to come back. Then they lost a close one to the Blazers. It's their first overtime in 6 games, I think, in several years. Just a weird start to the Suns season, but overall 1-1, not bad. Blazers, tough, gritty win. Dame kept missing shots, but the team rallied with Nurk, Ant, Grant all pitching in. Really good team win for the Portland Trail Blazers. On to the Saturday games. Spurs at the 76ers, and the Spurs, they came out with the energy that you expected in game 1. They just wanted this game more, period. Trey Jones was really good. Devin Vassell was making shots. Jakob just kept getting rebound after rebound. Keldon Johnson put up 21. I mean, this was just a weird game. For the 76ers, it's just head scratching, man. The talent is clearly there, but their effort is non-existent. None better personified than the 8 or so offensive rebounds they gave up in the fourth quarter. Embiid even dropping 40. He still looks lost out there. He doesn't look like MVP, best player in the league, Joel Embiid, that I thought he was going to be. The bench is still awful, and I saw a stat that they've been outscored 103-34 in 3 games. Just a yikes game from the 76ers. You need to fix your shit. This is an embarrassing start to the season. Moving on to the Pacers versus the Pistons. Battle of the bottoms. The difference in this game was a couple of threes by Halliburton and Neesmith, but very close in terms of talent, in terms of roster. You know, Cade Cunningham and Tyrese Halliburton are a push. The rest of the rosters are respectable as well. For the Pistons, Isaiah Stewart not being 7 feet really showed up in this game. That's all that I have to say about them. For the Pacers, great game from the rookie Mathurin. He dropped what? 27 points off the bench, 10 of 18 shooting in 31 minutes. Really impressive game for him. Celtics versus the Magic. Malcolm Brogdon, I don't know if I mentioned him yet, but he's a great pickup for the Celtics. He looks like he's fitting perfectly on this team coming off the bench. Jason Tatum dropped 40 points on 21 shots. Just another great all-around night from the Boston Celtics. Magic, that missed dunk in the end by Cole Anthony really hurt. It looked like that attempt number 3 that he had at last year's dunk contest. Just a big oof. The Celtics executed down the stretch. The Magic did not. That's the only way to break down the ending of this game. Raptors versus the Heat. Ending of this game was painful. The final 2 minutes probably took 25 real minutes. I hate the ending to NBA games. They're so painful. For the Raptors, they really felt the Scott Barnes injury to close this one out. Christian Coloco's ejection really got the team rolling, but they ultimately came up just a little bit short. Miami Heat, this game is why I think the Heat will win a lot of games, but they won't win a championship. They end up in a lot of tough, gritty, low-scoring, close games since they don't have a superstar, and they win a lot of those, but they also lose a lot of those tough, gritty, low-scoring, close games because they need a superstar. And right now, at this point, Jimmy Butler isn't that dude. 24 points, he's okay. He gets to the free throw line a lot, but when you need a bucket, it's not really consistent. All things being equal, they don't have that dude. They don't have a Giannis. They don't have a LeBron James, and that's why I think this team is going to come up short in the playoffs. Cavs versus the Bulls. This game was never really close. Bulls hung in a bit and then got completely stomped in the fourth quarter. Great win for the Cavs. I have nothing to report on them. Donovan Mitchell was great again. For the Bulls, their lack of bench is really apparent. They tried to bring in the GOAT Caruso off the bench to spark the team, but look, that's just not good enough. Goran Dragic is washed. Kobe White is hit and miss. Most of the time, though, miss. I'd like to see them get fully healthy, trade Patrick Williams for another maybe kind of bust rookie. The change of scenery might be what he needs, like Marvin Bagley or Jalen Smith. But the night and day difference in energy, effort, and skill between him and a freaking Javonte Green is vast and astonishing. This dude is a number 4 overall pick. What are you doing, son? Rockets versus the Bucks. The Bucks dropped 41 in the first quarter and just never looked back. Jabari versus Giannis was a really unfair matchup for the rookie. He just got schooled. The Bucks still missing Chris Middleton, but they have a good start to this season. Grizzlies versus the Mavericks. This one wasn't even close either. I think the Mavs were pissed of how they blew the game against the Suns, and they just came out with a vengeance while the Grizzlies were coming down off their back-to-back road game, third game in 4 days. Ja Morant dropped 49 last time. And look, it was a home opener for the Mavs. This was just a tough set of circumstances for the Grizzlies to even be competitive. They definitely missed Zaire Williams, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., and the Mavs were just rolling. Moving on to the Thunder versus the Nuggets. Complete shootout in this game. Both teams shot like 50% from the three-point line. Cry, Lakers fans. For the Thunder, they beat the hell up out of Joker. If they had Chet in the closing lineup instead of a Mike freaking Muscala, look, maybe they win this game. But this is the difference between the Thunder trying to compete and the Thunder trying to tank, is this is their roster as presently constructed. For the Nuggets, if I'm a championship team, I'm trading for KCP and I'm never giving him up until he retires. Tell that to the Lakers, tell that to the Wizards, and tell that to the Nuggets. Keep this man on your roster at all times. For the Clippers and the Kings, the Clippers small ball lineup really cooked Domantas Sabonis and Rashawn Holmes. This is why I love Ty Lue as a head coach and his willingness to embrace modern NBA concepts. It just destroyed the Sacramento Kings offense. As for the Kings, man, these games are close. They're tough. The refs really let violence go in the Kings games. What the hell? But Keegan Murray looked really good. Kings tried to make this competitive, but ultimately came up short. And I saw a great comment. Malik Monk, Davion Mitchell, Rashawn Holmes, Domantas Sabonis, Harrison Barnes, all sucking, which making this close, competitive, down-to-the-wire games is honestly not too bad for a Kings team looking to make the playoffs. Moving on to the final games of the week on Sunday. Oh boy. All right. Let's talk about this Blazers-Lakers game. Or for the Blazers. Great comeback for the Blazers. Damian Lillard returned. Looked like a legit basketball team. Blazers are good this year. Lakers. All right. Let's get on the Russell Westbrook soapbox. So I know that Russell Westbrook missed 31 seconds left in the game. 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Looks unforgivable. Was it a coaching thing? Did they say, hey, even if we're up by 1, you should take that 2-for-1 opportunity? Was it Russ going rogue? Obviously, everybody's favorite working theory. I get it. I understand that. But that one Russell Westbrook decision doesn't take away from the team's abysmal roster construction. LeBron consistently jacking up 30-foot contested threes. Anthony Davis playing lackadaisical defense or an offense. They deconstruct, they devolve into Patrick Beverly holding the ball for 10 seconds and then jacking up a contested three. The Lakers' problems always go a lot further than Russell Westbrook, and obviously he's not helping in any stretch. If he wasn't even on the team, they'd probably be playing a lot better. But don't let the Russell Westbrook hate make you forget that LeBron missed another clutch basket. This team is awful. This team has problems that are a lot deeper than Russell Westbrook by himself. All in all, an embarrassing loss for the Lakers yet again, same as last year. Hornets versus the Atlanta Hawks. Great win for the Hornets. They dropped 45 in the third quarter. Nick Richards had a career game. And look, hats off because I always bash him, but Dennis Smith Jr. had a great game defensively on Trae Young. Good game offensively. All in all, just a good win from the Hornets. For the Hawks, this game just boils down to a few simple things. The Hornets shot 52% from the field, 42% from the three-point line, while the Hawks shot 41% from the field, 23% from the three-point line. The Hawks they were off today, all out of sorts, just a bad game overall from them. Moving on to the Wizards versus the Cavaliers. And my stream was broken on this one, so I did my best to follow along. The Wizards fought hard to try to push this game into overtime, but they ultimately just came up a little bit short. As for the Cavaliers, great game. This is exactly what you thought they looked like, with a fiery Donovan Mitchell looking to win his first championship. Now in Cleveland with a great supporting cast. Again, Darius Garland still out with that eye injury. Moving on to the Jazz versus the Pelicans. Okay, this was a weird one. The end of the game turned into this really ugly ISO ball, hero ball offense. It was Jordan Clarkson versus CJ McCollum. And then Kelly Olynyk hits the game-winning shot. I mean, I don't know what to say about this game. For the Jazz, these pesky Jazz just keep fighting. I'm certain it's not going to last 82 games, but I'll be damned if they don't stop, don't ever give up. Hats off to their head coach, Will Hardy. And they missed 12 shots in a row at one point in the fourth quarter, which let the Pelicans get back into this game. For the Pelicans, well, I hope Zion's okay. I hope Brandon Ingram's okay. And CJ McCollum had one of those games, but they just came up a little bit short. This is why I'm lower on the Pelicans than most of the other NBA fans were. I'm never going to be certain about another team's health. You have to prove it to me. 82 games this season. I want to see your guys be healthy. Then I'll say, okay, now you can be a championship contender. And this was one of those games that just showed it. It reared its ugly heads. Hopefully both those guys are going to be coming back bigger, better, faster, stronger, but we will see. Moving on to the Timberwolves at the Thunder. Anthony Edwards balled out in this game with his I'm an A+ student hair, but really good game from him. Dropped 30 points on 13 and 19 shots. For the OKC Thunder, tough ankle sprain for Josh Giddey. We'll see. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander already out with injury. They've been dealing with these really big lineups. They had one versus Joker, 2 games versus the Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns. Just not an ideal start for the Thunder. I don't think the tank is official yet, though. Also a big fan of seeing Eugene Omoruyi get some legit minutes and play pretty okay. I was one of his bigger fans coming out of the draft 2 years ago, and then he tore his ACL, so we'll see what comes of that. Again, the Thunder just need size. Kings versus the Warriors. Tough end of this game. You could read Mike Brown's lips to Chimezie Metu. Don't foul, but they just made one mental mistake. They really tried to make this a competitive game and just come up a little bit short. Lots of heart again as they fought back. Another really close game for the Kings, and this is going to be a fun season for Sacramento fans. For the Warriors, a 50-piece in the second quarter. Wow. And then they really tried to blow this game. They missed like 12 shots in a row to finish off the game, just like the Jazz did. But overall, they still walk away with the victory. Suns versus the Clippers. This game was never close. The Suns jumped out to a big lead, and they just never looked back. Clippers, second night of a back-to-back. These games happen. That's all I can say about that. So we will look at the power rankings. And again, power rankings are not NBA standings. They are how good is the team with respect to their record. This is how we grade teams. So just because the Jazz are 3-0 doesn't mean they're the best team in the NBA. They're not going to win an NBA championship. So week 1, I still have the Warriors just in a league of their own, like I did at the preseason. I know they lost to the Nuggets. They're only 2-1. This is a very good team, very deep. Even in games that they're looking to lose, they still walk away with a W. Warriors number 1, and then complete tier gap from the rest of the league. Clippers I have at 2. I think that the potential upside of a healthy Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is what puts this team over the top better than all the other teams in the league. But for now, they're still fighting. They're still grinding. Ty Lue, best coach in the game. Number 3 is going to become the Grizzlies. No change at this point just because they're still missing Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks, Zaire Williams. They got a lot of things to fix on their side, and they're still freakishly good. Mavericks coming in right behind them. I know they beat the Grizzlies in a head-to-head. I felt like it was just an unfair game. Second night of a back-to-back. coming off an emotional high. Mavericks home opener. In a neutral ground, I think the Grizzlies are better than the Mavericks overall. Suns are going to bump up a spot. They've been pretty impressive. I was counting them out. I was saying this team isn't going to be as good as they were last time around. They're not going to be the number one seed in the Western Conference. They're going to come down. DeAndre Ayton, Robert Sarver, all these things going on. Cliff Paul playing pretty bad to start the season. But you know what? They're still competing. They're still fiery. They got a great roster. Nuggets are going to drop down a spot just because the Suns have been very impressive. Preseason picks probably should have put the Suns ahead of the Nuggets just because they're going to deal with some chemistry issues starting off the season. But my preseason prediction was the Suns were going to be worse, and they're not. Blazers go up a spot. Really impressive 3-0 start. Damian Lillard being back is just good to see. Pelicans go down a spot, not because they're bad, just because of the injuries, and the Wolves are going to hold steady at the number 9 seed. Obviously, there's potential to move up. They are 2-1. They had a good start to the season. But look, Rudy Gobert lost them a game, and that's just what I'm worried about with this Minnesota Timberwolves squad. Moving on to a tier below them, and these are all the teams that are the bottom feeders of the league. So top of this tier is the Jazz. They're 3-0. I mean, who would have thought Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk would be balling out? Again, they don't have the top end talent. I think we all just love watching the Jazz win, but we know deep in the back of our heads that they're not going to compete. The Kings are going to go up a spot. I know they're 0-3, but these are tough, gritty 0-3 games. Every single one came down to the wire, so I'm impressed with this Kings squad. Keegan Murray's been a lot better than I thought he would be. Other than that, though, they're still the Kings to me. Lakers going to be right behind them. The Lakers, we don't need to talk about them. They're an embarrassment of a roster construction. They still have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, so theoretically, they could be a good team if, I don't know, man. Spurs going to be right behind them. They're up a spot just because of their impressive win, and the other two teams haven't won anything at all. Rockets, second to worst team in the Western Conference, and the Thunder have just been huge disappointments to me. I thought they were going to turn the corner. I thought this was the year that they're going to compete for a play-in tournament spot, and then next year, with Chet Holmgren healthy, they're going to start to be championship contenders. No, they're not there yet. They still, at least at this point, with all the injuries as well going on, they're just not at that point in their franchise. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, and I had the 76ers as the number one team in the East, and I was wrong. So the Celtics are the best team in the NBA right now, just top to bottom, game to game, wire to wire. They're the most complete team. They're the most competitive team. Joe Mazzulla's got those boys cooking. Very impressed with them. They're going to go up 2 spots. Milwaukee Bucks going to hold steady right at that second spot. Chris Middleton, of course, still out, and they're just balling out. And then I have a tier gap below these top 2 teams in the NBA, and this tier is the kind of, they can be competitive if it's one of those weird seasons, like everybody goes out with injury with the Heat. But for the most part, they're just behind these top 2 Celtics Bucks teams. And starting with that tier is going to be the 76ers, and they're going to continue to come down if they play like this. But I was going to have them at the bottom end of the tier above, and they're just not there. They're 0-3. They're an embarrassment. Doc Rivers doesn't have them cooking. Joel Embiid's been a no-show. So for now, they're at the top of this tier, but they're going to continue to come down if nothing changes. Behind them is the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell, just a great pickup, has been working out exactly as they wanted. Hawks right behind them. They're jumping up a spot. They just been playing really well. I thought the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young would need a little bit more time to blossom and bloom, but it's just working. It fits like a puzzle piece. Heat are going to come down a spot. They just lost a couple of really close, toughly contested games, and that's why I don't think that the Heat are championship caliber team, but they're always going to be right here in that 3 to 6 mix every single season. Bulls right behind them. They need to get healthy. They need to figure a few things out. Raptors won a really close game, but of course, Scott Barnes goes out with injury. They lack that top end talent similar to the Heat. Nets, I mean, I don't know what to do with this team or the Lakers. Their roster construction is a joke. Ben Simmons is a joke. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are really good. I mean, it's as simple as that. Knicks are going to go up a spot. Had a really impressive game. They're one of the teams that have only played 2 games, so there's not a lot of tape out on them, but moderately impressed with them. Wizards drop it down a spot just because I was impressed with how the New York Knicks handle themselves. Overall, though, they're kind of the same caliber of team. If RJ Barrett steps up, if Jalen Brunson balls out, and Julius Randle returns to his all NBA form, of course the Knicks are going to be a much better team than the Wizards, but who knows when it comes to the New York Knicks. And there's going to be a tier gap below these guys, and these are all the we're taken for Victor Wembanyama tier. Pacers jump up a spot ahead of the Pistons just because they won the head-to-head. Hornets jump up a spot. They've been actually pretty good this season without LaMelo Ball. I actually had them as the worst team in the NBA because of Steve Clifford. I wasn't big on that signing. LaMelo Ball out with injury. Miles Bridges, we all know what happened, and they don't play their rookies. But you know what? They've been pretty impressive. 1-2 games at this point, and the Magic, worst team in the NBA, but they're playing really competitive, really fun team to watch. That is going to do it for the power rankings and the recap. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch it in the next one.